In the spring of 1775, the news of the battles at Lexington and Concord spread like wildfire. John Stark led men from all over New Hampshire to Massachusetts, where they comprised over half the fighting force at the Battle of Bunker Hill. Only after they were out of powder and shot did they yield their position to a third British advance. Stark's cool demeanor, while facing the best of the British Army at Bunker Hill, stands tall among Revolutionary War exploits. 2 years after Bunker Hill, Stark became the Brigadier General of the New Hampshire State Militia with an independent command of 1,500 men. With his commission in hand and against orders, the indomitable Stark headed to Bennington, Vermont, where he halted a British attempt to cut the colonies in half and win the war. His double victory on August 16, 1777, forced the British surrender at Saratoga and turned the tide of the entire war. Throughout the first half of the next century, while the militia system was in decline, New Hampshire's men enlisted as regulars, and in 2 more wars, did their share in revealing the clear superiority of American troops in battle. During the War of 1812, Colonel James Miller and his 21st Regiment of New Hampshire men stormed and held a British artillery stronghold which had been raking the Americans with ball and canister. Colonel Miller's success at the Battle of Lundy's Lane earned admiration even from the captured British officers. In the later Mexican War, Brigadier General Franklin Pierce ordered a cannon barrage toward an out-of-range stronghold. Not a single cannonball came close, but the thunderous display of American artillery accomplished its unsettling work, dispersing the Mexican soldiers and allowing Pierce's New Hampshire troops to take the position. In 1860, Southern states began a war against their northern neighbors as they sought independence and autonomy. To help preserve the Union, New Hampshire sent 17 regiments of infantry to war, as well as units of sharpshooters, light and heavy artillery, and cavalry. In every major battle of the Civil War, New Hampshire's troops gave their blood and their lives. At Gettysburg, while New Hampshire's light artillery helped turn back Pickett's charge, the 2nd, 5th, and 12th Infantry Regiments all contributed to this defining battle, which would serve to alter the course of the war. This battle took the life of Colonel Edward Cross, the gallant leader of New Hampshire's fighting 5th Infantry Regiment. By the end of the war, Cross's 5th New Hampshire had achieved another unhappy distinction of having lost more men than any other Union regiment.
The battlefield is quiet now. It was not quiet earlier today. I am Charles Canny, Company D, 5th New Hampshire, and I'm surprised that I made it out alive. Colonel Cross, our colonel, met his fate on that day, along with many other men from the 5th New Hampshire. Colonel Cross was shot while putting us in the line, shot dead on the spot by a Confederate sniper. Sergeant Phelps was ordered to raise his rifle and shoot that sniper, and he did, quite quick. Later that day, Sergeant Phelps would meet his fate, being shot in the back. I hear now we will be heading back to New Hampshire to recruit men to replace the men that had died on that field, to help preserve our nation and our Union.
At the end of the 19th century, New Hampshire volunteers were trained up for the Spanish-American War, and again in 1916, the New Hampshire National Guard was at Laredo, Texas, helping to guard the border against the rampages of the Mexican renegade Pancho Villa. The valuable lessons learned at Laredo were put to the test in 1917 when America entered World War I. And although the New Hampshire National Guard had almost no role in this war, most of its men saw action as members of New England's 26th Infantry Yankee Division. In a reorganization after the First World War, the New Hampshire National Guard departed from its infantry roots to become the 172nd Field Artillery and the 197th Coast Artillery, and a generation later, both were at war, one in Europe and the other in the Pacific. The first stop for the 172nd Field Artillery was Camp Blanding, Florida, where they helped erect a full military training post on top of the sand dunes. After taking part in the Louisiana maneuvers, they followed the D-Day invasion troops into Europe, where they began an intense 10 months of cannon barrage while pushing the German army back across France and Belgium and into Germany. After Pearl Harbor, the 197th was sent to protect the harbor at Fremantle, Australia. Their anti-aircraft support was vital, as this was the initial supply post for the Asiatic fleet. Stepping beyond their normal routine, some of the men managed to repair a fire-damaged submarine. The admiral, amazed at how the Army could fix a Navy sub, later learned that, prior to the war, some of the men of the 197th had actually built her as civilians at the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard. As the war progressed, the ground troops moved forward, and the 197th moved with them, providing anti-aircraft and even infantry support in New Guinea and through the Philippines, helping fulfill General Douglas MacArthur's promise to return.
I can be your grandfather or I could be your father. I come to you from the fall of 1944 in the island of New Guinea. It's real hot here, and I bet you back home in New Hampshire, the cool autumn weather is going to be fading into wintertime. I think I'd like to be skiing or skating right now. Here in New Guinea, yeah, we fight the enemy. We do our job, we do our duty, but we've also got the swamps, the jungle, the fear of malaria, the mosquitoes, the snakes, all types of other insects. It's a tough place to be, but we're here doing our duty, and we're not embarrassing ourselves or the state of New Hampshire because we're doing our duty and doing it well. But when this war is over, we'll be coming home, probably have a leave in Australia. That's going to sound real good to us, and we'll be back to doing what we've always wanted to do back in Laconia or Concord or Dover or Nashua. In fact, when I get home, I'm sick of sleeping on ground and walking through water. Hear tell there might be an Air National Guard when I get back. I think I'll join that. At least I'll get a bunk to sleep in.
At the end of World War II, a new branch of military service was born, the Air Force and the Air National Guard. In New Hampshire, the Air National Guard's first mission was as a fighter squadron based at Grenier Field at the present-day Manchester Airport. During the Korean War, only New Hampshire's Air Guard was activated to help train Air Force pilots. Some of the airmen were reassigned to other bases around the world, and a few flew combat missions in Korea.